After an unexpected pregnancy, Silas Shaw, who had always avoided the topic of marriage, suddenly proposed to me. Overjoyed, I readily accepted. However, on the day of the wedding, I stumbled upon an unexpected conversation between him and his friends. "Are you really going to marry Caldine just because of your child with Nora?" one of them asked. Silas was visibly irritated and full of disdain as he responded, "It's all because of my mother. She kept saying that Nora's family background wasn't good enough. If it weren't to give my child with Nora a better status, why on earth would I marry Caldine? You have no idea how boring a woman like her is in bed. I got tired of her after sleeping with her twice." Tears dripped onto the back of my hand, jolting me back to reality. I then looked down at the camera in my hands. It was meant to capture the happiest moments of my life, but now it felt like a cruel joke. The door suddenly opened, and Silas Shaw froze the moment he saw me. "Charlie, what are you doing here, and why are you crying? Is it because you're so excited about marrying me?" I could sense the doubt and hesitation in Silas's voice, and a wave of deep disgust rose from within me. "Silas, I'll ask you one thing. Do you truly want to marry me?" Silas was momentarily stunned, but soon, his familiar impatience resurfaced. "The wedding's about to start. Why are you asking such a question now? Caldine Simpson, can't you put away your spoiled attitude for once? If you keep this up, we might as well not get married." Each word pierced my heart like a knife, but I laughed anyway. Even now, he would not say a single word to comfort me. Was I really nothing more than an insignificant woman to Silas? Then let's not get married. I ripped off my veil and threw it to the ground. Afterward, I yanked the ring off my finger and hurled it at his face. "Silas, the wedding is off." Before he could say another word, I grabbed my gown and bolted out of the room. I jumped into a car and, as soon as I closed the door, broke down into uncontrollable sobs. I knew exactly who Nora was. Nora Lawson was the woman Silas once loved, but could never have. Silas had fought, skipped classes, and even risked his life in a near-fatal car accident while chasing after Nora when she moved abroad. In the 7 years we were together, I had never once heard him mention Nora's name. I thought he had let go of her, but it turned out they had rekindled their relationship in secret and even had a baby together. Then, in order to give that child a respectable identity, Silas had come up with the idea of marrying me as a front. In this entire charade, I had been foolishly overjoyed, thinking my years of devotion had finally paid off. Silas knew how much I had dreamed of my wedding and how deeply I had longed for a child of my own, but he still cruelly turned all of it into poisoned candy, tempting me to swallow it whole. My phone kept ringing with calls. When I glanced at the screen, I saw that everyone was trying to reach me. My father, my mother, my best friend, and most obviously, Silas. Without hesitation, I rejected Silas's call and blocked his number. Just as I finished, a message from my mother popped up. "Charlie, your father and I trust that you're not acting out of impulse. We'll handle things here. When you've calmed down, we'll talk it all through. However, please, I beg you, don't do anything reckless." As I read her words, the tears I had been holding back came streaming down once more. I returned to the home Silas and I shared. Everywhere I looked, there were traces of our life together, picture frames on the walls, a custom-made rug, and flowers and vases we had assembled together. Once, I thought this house symbolized my happiness. Now, I realized how foolish I had been. Although the picture frames held countless photos of Silas and me, Silas wore a cold, indifferent expression in every single one, while I played the fool, smiling like a clown. He always said he was not the type to smile, but I had seen the way he looked at Nora. It was the kind of look that naturally brought a soft smile to his lips. It was a smile of pure joy and genuine happiness, so different from the impatience he showed towards me. The house was filled with things. They were mine, Silas's, and things we chose together. However, when I looked closer, I realized almost everything had been chosen and bought by me. As for Silas, aside from his personal belongings, there was nothing he had contributed. How could I ever have believed this house represented the happiness we shared? A deep sadness and mounting resentment welled up inside me, filling every corner of my heart. I lost control and began smashing everything I could. Vases, picture frames, cups, things I once cherished with all my heart, were dragged out and thrown into the yard. As I stared at the growing pile of debris like a small mountain before me, a notebook suddenly fell to the ground. I picked it up and opened it. A single line was written inside. 100 things I want to do with Silas: skiing, diving, watching sunsets. One by one, I had carefully listed them, writing every detail with hopeful anticipation. However, tragically, not a single one of those dreams had come true. I ignited the lighter in my hand. The flames grew quickly, mercilessly consuming every piece of evidence of our time together. 7 years of memories seemed to dissolve into nothingness, turning to ashes along with the fire. A sharp pain spread through my stomach. I glanced at the mess I had left the house in, then picked up the phone without hesitation. "Liam, could you send someone to clear out everything in Garrington Garden? And sell it as soon as possible." After packing a few clothes, I grabbed my suitcase and purchased the first plane ticket I could find, leaving Capitan behind. Before boarding the plane, I received texts from an unfamiliar number. "Caldine. What's gotten into you? Don't think that just because we're getting married that I'll tolerate this nonsense. When the time comes and you're kneeling on the ground, begging me to marry you, I won't even bother to look at you." I did not reply. I simply blocked the number. As I scrolled through social media, I came across a post from one of Silas's friends. After all these years, some people's love is still as strong as ever. The photo was of Silas playing some sort of game. His face was covered in colorful paper notes, likely from Nora, yet he gazed at her with a helpless, indulgent smile. I could not help but remember how Silas once lost his temper with me when I accidentally smeared cream on his face. He had shoved me to the ground in anger. Now, here he was, sweetly humoring his beloved, while still finding the time to threaten me. I left a comment. Best wishes to you both. Then, I deleted and blocked every person connected to Silas without hesitation. Following the list in the notebook, I completed all the things I once wanted to do with Silas, on my own. In just 1 month, I achieved what we could not in 7 years. The final stop on my journey was the snow-capped mountains at sunrise. Alone, I braved the freezing cold and thirst, climbing step by step to a place I had never been. I wanted to give up countless times, but somehow, I kept going. When I reached the summit, the dazzling golden light of sunrise broke across the horizon. I stood there, watching the brilliant dawn in the distance. The sounds of awe and joy from strangers around me filled the air, and it felt as though the sun melted away all of the ice and snow around me, but also the pain I carried within. On my way down the mountain, I tossed the notebook into a trash bin. When I finally returned to Capitan, my waiting parents and brother rushed forward, pulling me into a tight embrace.